The new season of Peppa Pig is being very important for George. He is finally talking, but the little pig is also going through a problem. Are you ready to discover George Pig's new phase? Fooled. The first thing you need to know is that we were completely fooled about George's true story. For over 20 years that the series has been on air, everyone thought that the little pig only spoke and understood a single word, dinosaur. But in reality, all this time, little George Pig was going through a difficulty, which is his ability to hear. But we'll get there because there's a lot to talk about on this topic. This new season, which is the 11th phase of the series, is going to be a big change for George, and fans have already started to notice that. Peppa's brother is talking more and more, and now it seems like the show's production is already looking for an older actor to voice the character, because he's going to talk much more than that. The word dinosaur is no longer George's favorite word. We have proof of that, and if you want to know everything, we're going to tell you right now.
You already know, right? Another Cinewave is starting!
It all started in the episode Hearing Test, when Daddy Pig and Mummy Pig were taking Evie for her first hearing test to check if the baby's health was okay. This is a type of test that all babies around the world take, but since George and Peppa were also there, the doctor, who was Dr. Brown Bear, had a brilliant idea. He wanted all the children in the pig family to take the hearing test. The doctor made this request because Peppa said that George didn't want to say her name. Keep this information in mind because it will be important in today's video. Evie and Peppa's test had a very positive result, but in George's case, it wasn't so encouraging. When the doctor evaluated the little pig, she put headphones on him and said that whenever he heard a sound, he should pick up a block from the table and place it inside a pot. The sound kept getting lower and lower, and there came a moment when George couldn't hear anything anymore. And what does that have to do with the fact that George is now going to talk more and more? It's very simple. Now the doctors know what happened to George, because from the next episodes on, Peppa's brother will use a hearing aid to improve the sounds he couldn't hear before. Do you doubt it? When the doctor asked George a question while he was wearing headphones, the little pig answered yes, instead of saying dinosaur like he always did. This is a sign of the character's development. So yes, George is losing hearing, but gaining a voice. Peppa. The episode following George's hearing test was the story Favorite Sounds, when the little pig was still getting used to the hearing aid. And get ready to feel emotional, because this episode is one of the most important in Peppa Pig so far, and it puts George into a new phase. The story begins with the protagonist placing the hearing aid in her younger brother's ear, and then Mummy Pig says, "You are a great big sister. Very good, Peppa." And George, who is next to her, also says, "Very good, dinosaur," as if that were his sister's name. Peppa gets sad because she wanted George to say her name at least once. Mummy Pig says it will be difficult because the little pig is still getting used to this new life. And then Peppa has an idea, which is to show her favorite sounds to George. They go to the city park, and Peppa shows one of her favorite sounds, the ice cream truck sound, which George easily recognizes, and instead of saying dinosaur, he says ice cream. Do you understand that? He is discovering new words because he is hearing better and getting older. And besides that, the little pig asks where the ice cream is. These are new words. But the truly emotional part of this episode is when Peppa gets sad because George can't hear her favorite sound, which is the muddy puddle, and then Mummy Pig comforts her. All of that so that in the end, George finally says his sister's name. For the first time in 20 years, George said the word Peppa. The protagonist is so happy that she says that from that moment on, her brother's voice saying her name is her favorite sound. What is your favorite sound? Comment #Peppa so we can get to know you.
Favorite. When Peppa says that this is her new favorite sound, George replies that it is his too.
And that reveals two things. The first is that George Pig understands full sentences and can also respond to them. He knows what the word favorite means, and that is a huge development for the little pig. The second, when he says that the sound of his own voice is his new favorite sound, then George is trying to say that now he is interested in something beyond dinosaurs. Could a new phase be coming for this character? Absolutely yes. Butterflies. In Peppa's Tales, which are stories separate from the regular episodes of the series, there is a new moment where the creators give clues about George's life. We spend an entire day with the little pig, and because of that, the sound around him is muffled. This is the first clue that the little pig was having trouble hearing. Another interesting moment in this mini-story is when we see George becoming interested in a butterfly. For those who didn't understand, butterflies are a sign of change. Many cartoons use this, like for example Bingo and Bluey, when she meets the blue butterfly Flappy, and in George's case it was the same. Let's remember that a butterfly was once a caterpillar, which goes into a cocoon and then comes out as one of the most beautiful insects in the whole world. In other words, it grew and changed. That is what is is going to happen to George, and his new phase has begun. Did you notice that? Another clue happens in Madame Gazelle's class, when she is playing music and the little pig gets up to listen to the speaker more closely. Notice that there is a butterfly sticker there. In other words, the change George needs so much will come through sound. Dinosaur. Have you ever wondered why George likes dinosaurs? That's a very fair question, because he has only talked about that for over 20 years. And now, with the 11th season of Peppa, we might have the answer. George doesn't hear very well. He only said his own sister's name after he grew up and was able to hear sounds properly, and the hearing test showed that the lower the volume of a sound is, the less our little pig can hear it. But what about dinosaurs? Of course, giant and powerful monsters are very cool, but is that really the only reason George likes them? The truth is that our little pig likes these animals because they make loud noises. Let's remember that in one of Peppa's stories, George grabs the TV remote to switch to his favorite TV show, which features dinosaurs making noises. He loves these animals because through them, George is able to connect with the world. It makes total sense, but now with the hearing aid, George is able to develop other interests. As he himself said, his new favorite sound is now the sound of his own voice, and that is beautiful and emotional.
There's a new video here every day, so subscribe and hit the bell to stay up to date. Story. If you still doubt that George's life is entering a new phase, we are going to show you the mini story of the little pig going to school the day after he got his hearing aid. On this day, George had to tell all his friends how they discovered his hearing problem at the doctor. Just from that, we already know you understand. George having to tell a story? That's difficult since he only knows a single word, right? George is still learning, but he helped Peppa tell the whole story. But not all sounds are good for him. Chairs scraping on the floor, for example, are terrible for him. George then starts drawing while Peppa talks, but along the way, the little pig adds things like giant robots, dinosaurs, and aliens into the story. To correct Peppa, George says things like, the hearing aid helps. He can already form full sentences, and it won't be long before that gets even better. Character. Did you know that 1 in every 1,000 children is born with some level of hearing difficulty, and that nowadays there are approximately 34 million young people and children with this condition? This is important because it explains why the creators of Peppa Pig chose to create this new phase in George's life. In the mini story where the little pig goes to school and needs to show the device to his friends, Susie starts speaking a bit slower and louder to talk to George, but Peppa tells her that this is not necessary. The idea behind this is that the episode wants to make it very clear that people with hearing loss can live normal lives. George, for example, only needs to wear the device in his left ear, since his right ear is fine. This is very special in the show because from now on, George Pig is going to become the favorite character of many people. Not that he wasn't already, but this new development is important because many fans around the world will feel more connected to George. Think about how beautiful that is. If a fan of the show who has hearing problems starts to see that George is like them, and on top of that, he lives a normal life, then in the real world, many fans of the series will feel closer to the show. This is very special, and you can expect that from now on, George will gain even more space in the hearts of many people. Marathon. And finally, we are going to talk about the future. The episode where George gets his hearing aid is the 14th of the 11th season, which is the current phase of the series. Not all episodes are available yet, but there are some updates we can share. In this season, Daddy Pig decided to run a marathon in London to teach his children about courage and determination. During this time, Peppa and George are training Daddy, and George will show that he understands many other things. From what people are saying, George will say words like quit, run, and grab, and he will even show that he knows what the word stopwatch means. Wow, that's really interesting. If you don't want to miss anything, stay with us. We've left 2 videos on your screen so you can choose and keep having fun with us. See you in the next video.